Bill Barr, one of the more controversial statements this past week, but what made it so controversial? Already the #2 and the outgoing #2 at that. Rod Rosenstein has said he saw nothing unusual in that comment, but of course the political hay has already been raised here. Former Whitewater Independent Counsel Ken. In the meantime, keeping an eye on this Mueller report that we're told could be out in a matter of days. Now, how much of it is released to the public or released period, and to whom is anyone's guess. But a good time to catch up with a guy who follows this very, very closely. Of course, I'm talking about the guy who was there at the very beginning with the Whitewater prosecution, Robert Ray, the former Whitewater Independent Counsel. Let me get into this, Robert, with a couple of criticisms that the Attorney General has gotten for his spying comment. What did you make of that? And because to a lot of Democrats, it looked like he was carrying the president's water, and that's something the president has said, you said.
Well, they've contended that it was a dog whistle, and of course it's the coincidence of the fact that he used the same word that the president used. I don't think that's what he was suggesting. He was simply indicating that he is going to conduct a review, which is the news, of whether or not proper procedure was followed in connection with the origins of what became the Russia investigation, including, I would imagine, because this is also before the Inspector General at the Department of Justice, Michael Horowitz, questions about whether or not, politics entered into the decision-making process about seeking court authorization for electronic surveillance, spying.
Right. So if he said another word, like you were saying during the break, surveilling or whatever, it would have maybe gotten as much attention.
Sure, if he had said eavesdropping, everybody would have understood that to mean we're not, no one's suggesting that anybody did anything wrong. That's what you have an investigation to figure out.
Knowing you were coming, I was intrigued by a Wall Street Journal editorial today talking about Comey's role at the time, saying that when former Director James Comey admits he deliberately hid his work from both the House and the Senate, and the FBI kept information from yet another overseer, the judicial branch failing to tell the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court that the Clinton campaign and Democratic National Committee paid for the disputed dossier, it presented as a basis a surveillance warrant against Carter Page, a U.S. citizen. What the Journal is saying, what others have been saying, is there's perfect legitimacy to at least explore how an investigation got off the ground.
I should think so, and I should think that Democrats and Americans of all stripes should be interested in that question. In other words, that very important question to make sure that this process was not tainted by political considerations. And I think it is a central question that the Wall Street Journal has zeroed in on. Why? Who made the decision about not fully disclosing in the warrant application where the Steele dossier came from?
So what is the obligation of the person who spying or surveilling, whatever the term is, and Comey's going after this and not sharing this with anyone? He was flummoxed, that was Comey, and some comments he was making, that he didn't understand where Barr was coming from here. Who's right?
As my elementary school teachers used to say, if you don't know what the word means, look it up. And I think that spying, and I don't think that the Attorney General was suggesting the pejorative connotation that apparently Jim Comey seems to derive from that, and the rest of Democrats who have roundly criticized this. I mean, I really don't.
What is that definition?
The definition is
looking into the behavior of certain entities. Right?
Right. It's clandestine. It's secret. It's not publicly disclosed, period. It doesn't suggest whether it's legal or illegal. That is a characterization that I don't think exists, and is certainly not one that I understand to be signified by the word spying. Look, the point of all of this is that we're having an investigation at the highest levels of the department to determine whether or not proper procedure was followed with regard to something that everybody should understand to be sensitive. Do you want one party in power to be spying on or conducting electronic surveillance or eavesdropping against a candidate for office from the opposing political party?
You share that then with operatives within the Trump campaign? We're looking into this because that would be giving away what you're supposedly trying to get.
I think that's a complicated question. I think if there's a predicate to believe that there is criminal wrongdoing afoot, my sense is that you would not be obligated to share that. but that's why you're trying to figure out whether or not this was an adequately predicated investigation of a presidential candidate under those circumstances. That's a legitimate question to be asked. All Americans should be concerned and want to know what the answer to that question is. And I think that's why the Attorney General has signaled, once the Horowitz investigation is over, that he intends to look at it. Not just, by the way, with regard to the department's conduct, but also the intelligence community's contributions to that effort, which presumably would include not just the FBI, but also potentially others, including the CIA. That's a legitimate thing for the Department of Justice to be evaluating.
Interesting. All right, Robert Ray, thank you very much. Good catching up with you.
Same here. Good to see you again, Neil.